Hi, all. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone, for joining this call today. Actually, today's topic is Bricken. We have like a very great team of the Spanish project of the project based in Spain, Bricken. They offer an advanced tokenization service for businesses through their platform, and they already raised almost 3 million. Edwin, please, correct me if I'm wrong. And now they are still raising an additional round, right? And they already have clients and a lot of partnerships and a big community. I will handle the mic to you, Edwin, and please introduce you to all of us.
Yes, hello. Actually, I do have some familiar faces here and some friendly chats that have happened in the past. So hello again to everyone who we spoke in the past. So yes, my name is Edwin Mata. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Bricken. My background, just to give you a snapshot as to why I entered the securitization and tokenization space. I come from being an mergers and acquisition lawyer, especially in Europe for the restructuring of companies for financial purposes, so taxation. And then somehow 2017, I entered the tech sector startup and became the head of legal of a company here called Signatory, which is DocuSign's biggest competitor and prime leader in Europe. And they had to develop a phase for smart contracts to see how with electronic signatures and electronic identity, there was a match between using smart contracts and blockchain for verification purposes and whatnot. And that's where I entered into the blockchain space. My first white paper ever to be read was actually Chainlinks, because I needed to understand how to trigger offline data and online, because if we have paper documents, we wanted to see how we can execute automatizations using smart contracts. And that's where I went down the rabbit hole. 3 years later, decided to fund Bricken. Actually, the head of blockchain of that company is one of my co-founders. So we were both kind of we need to build something together, and that's kind of like the ignition of how Bricken came to be. We are 4 founders, each with a very specific role in the company, coming from capital markets, blockchain, legality, and the last person being a growth hacker. So 3 years later, we're here. So that's kind of like the inception of how Bricken came to be, but I guess we want to get to the good. So probably you will have a lot of questions. Feel free to stop me. I'm going to share my deck, then afterwards do a quick demo, and then we start conversating about how tokenization of the RWA is probably going to be one of the biggest narratives in the next bull run, because for me especially, and my conception is that blockchain makes a lot of sense for many sectors, but transcendentally there's one that is going to be revolutionized without a single doubt, and that's the financial system itself. And if we're talking about financial systems getting unlocked or bringing on chain, then we're talking about trillions that are out there that are waiting to be brought on chain. So that's kind of like the goal of Bricken, to see how we can bridge those Web2 euros into some nice stable coins and whatnot. With that brief introduction, let me share my deck. 1 second. So again, thanking this opportunity to be able to introduce. So we've been in the space for 2020. Right now we're backed by certain players already. We're part of the Build program from Chainlink, part of the Celebrity program from Cointelegraph. Token wise, we've been backed by 2 VCs, one being Barry's Capital and OX. And now in our next share round, which is the seed round for our equity, then we'll spin that at the end. We got Stallion from the United States and CNC from Hong Kong. So the idea was always about kind of like, why are we talking about tokenization? So yes, it's buzz, yes, it's trending, but the conception as to how you can tokenize an asset, like if I ask you, all of you, maybe some will say like, oh, you can do it like this, but others will be like, yeah, I don't know how you tokenize an asset. Like, I understand the concept of digitization of an asset, but how does that work? Now, here in this specific call, maybe there's more specialized people, but imagine like that asking to a Web2 company, like a real estate promoter or a franchise owner, like how does tokenization work? So that's kind of like, there's not a single, like, yet not theoretical, like practical knowledge as to say like, it works like this. So we have a lot of products in our head that we understand how it works. So you want to go to an Uber, you say like, you don't say I'm going to grab a taxi, you say I'm going to grab a Uber. So I'm not going to go sleep. It's like, let's grab an Airbnb. So it's kind of like, we already know certain key products and understand how it works. But for tokenization, we still have a lot to build. And that's a great opportunity, actually, because there's not a specific standard. Like, there's players, obviously, in the space, us being one of them. But basically, we need to still build kind of like, how are we going to create that conception for a person or company to understand that tokenization is like, oh, let's do a Bricken. That's kind of like the whole goal of a company, becoming the keyword out of vertical that you're trying to trigger, right? So problems that we were watching or on the horizon was like, okay, yes, besides the technicality, the legality, we're dealing with securities or RWAs or whatever it is, I mean, it's very legal compliant. So if you start adding all of that, it becomes very heavy for any company to really jump in and say like tokenization, because there's so many blockers or uncertainty just at the beginning that they won't even enter to the whole flow. And we need to understand the whole flow based on the life cycle of an asset. So the important lies is, what is an asset? Like there's a lot of people that don't even understand what is an asset. When we have money at hand, we have an asset. When you enter to your house, it's your asset. When you have a company, you own shares, you own an asset. But the conception is still there. Like people don't really understand, like, oh yeah, this is an asset. But the asset itself has a life cycle of 3 stages. So you have the creation, or when you become the owner. Then you have the distribution. If you're a company looking to tokenize your equity or tokenizing loans and everything, you bring in third parties, so your investors, your partners, whatnot. And then the third stage of an asset is kind of like the management, because you do already have an asset class. You already have investors jumping into your cap table or into your loan agreement or whatever that you have to manage. So that's kind of like governance, that's investor relationship. And then you also have treasuries, because you just tokenize to raise funds, why not? And then what happens with that kind of like treasury back? So you do have to also manage that. If we put all of these 3, then we know that there's 3 very much segregated stages that if you don't fulfill and give them a one-stop solution to your customers, you will lose them right off the track. If you give them just the ability to mint, I mean, right now, honestly, every tech developer in blockchain out there can go to OpenZeppelin, download a template, shoot an ERC20, voila, you have a digital asset. So what? I mean, what does that generate? Just the creation of an asset? But that's kind of like, okay, now you need to sell. Well, I mean, you do have certain players in the utility sector, such as launchpads, where they do an allocation, they distribute. You have other forms of deployment, such as where I don't remember the name, but you give the tokens and it distributes to the wallets that you provide them, and it spreads sort of smart contract. But then, so what? I mean, I'm talking about some tools that are already existing, so we can tell that the market itself is very fragmented. And then in the management, I mean, by reference, we can talk about Carta, right? In Web2, you want to have your investor relationships in one-stop solution. Well, you go for Carta. But in talking about the tokenization, you don't need to just have one. You need to fulfill the promise that you can give a solution to the 3. With that conception is how we build Bricken. For you to really go in a no-code solution, obviously. So that means great user experience, super simple, no blockchain wording. Nothing that the company on Web2 needs to understand, because that's not the promise why they're entering in blockchain. They're entering because they see tokenization for all the characteristics that they have to be able to, they say like, yeah, I want to tokenize my assets, so I'm going to do it. But they don't want to enter into all the technicality and understanding that, because you will lose them right off the track. Obviously, providing with the solution doesn't mean it also means like, how is it going to be legal compliant? What are my assurances? How does it play? And then we'll talk about the services. But then we go to the second step, and it's like, once we fulfill the journey that we can give them a great solution for them to be able to create a digital asset, we need to give them a better solution for distribution, because you can mint your asset for your own right now, and that's what, yeah, congratulations, you have a digital asset. But you need to put it out there in the market. You need to sell it. You need to get your investors excited about your project. So we give you a Shopify sort of solution. So think about it, just giving you like to think, and then we can go about the demo. And then you further understand what I mean is, if you wanted to put an e-commerce store today, by reference, you will go to Shopify. All your tools and functionalities, deployment of a landing page, deployment of a marketplace, deployment of a payment, of a point of sale, all of those are given by Shopify. So companies have 2 options, 2 difference here. They either go and build their own, and it's like best of luck, or you go to Shopify and build it. So we grab those ideas and we give you now a website builder where you can onboard all your investors, where they have a point of sale, where you have communication tools, where you have everything there. So that's kind of like, okay, voila. Second stage is also fulfilled by our token suite, which is the name of our project. And then we go to the management. So you have all of it. Yes, Joshua? Hello? I see the raised hand.
I'm a little bit curious. You're a lawyer as well. And one of the biggest issues I've seen with real world assets is, how do you deal with illegal transactions? And when I'm talking about illegal transactions, I'm not talking about KYC tokens, of which it's coming, what the source of funds is. I'm talking more about something along the lines of fraud in the inducement of a contract, where you're buying a house and you find out that the house had been, used in Heaven Gate suicide or something. It's one of the problems I've seen with real world assets time and time again. When people put things on chain, they haven't thought about how to deal with real world assets insofar as like trying to rescind the contract, things like that. From the moment of creation, they're not thinking about, hey, how do we fix this if there's problems with the real world asset, not so much with the chain transaction.
Absolutely. So I would like to stay with technology wise, and then I'll go more into legal. So technology, we do have our template in ERC20, but it's not that standard ERC20. So we bought a bunch of functions. One of them is a retractment. So we can cancel transactions just because the tokens are sent. But this is not because of what you were saying. It's just because we're dealing with the security types of things. So you need to understand that the admin or owner needs to also fulfill that secondary transactions are per the accordance of the board, of the shareholders agreement, of the loan, or whatever. So in that sense, technological speaking, we can cancel or return the tokens to the owner or return the tokens to the source. So it's kind of like how we fulfill just in case there's a secondary transaction, which in this case will be like what happens in such case. We can already return everything. We don't return funds because obviously we don't have access to USDT, USDC, or whatever is being used. But at least the whole base is kind of like the security representation of an equity or the loan. Then we can definitely backtrack that to an origin point where we decide that it is, but not us. It's all about a compliance procedure that we have embedded with our legal department and the clients for them to understand how that happens in certain scenarios, right? So regarding the second one, it's compliance. Yes, I mean, right now, let's forget about everything that is technological. I can sell you my house and I'm not even the owner of the house. So there's a trust foundation out of that, which still, I don't need technology to trick the system, right? I can be scamming without a single use of absolutely any technology. That's a pain that is always going to be existent, right? I mean, in offline formats, we have public registries, such as real estate registry in various countries. Some of them, they don't even have a public registry for real estate, but you can always go and do that. Problem lies in other sectors. So it's not always going to be a clean decision, but we're getting there better. Right now, we're working with Chainlink with proof of reserves, because what we want to do is, if there's an offline data format that we understand that we can bring on chain, such as a certificate and third-party independent expert opinion, whatnot, we can digitize that information because it's already being validated, and we can bring it on chain and start applying functions based on the certificate. Such as if the valuation is 1 million, we can already push that you cannot mint above 1 million because it's already being pre-established offline by a third-party independent expert that the valuation is 1 million. And we can start playing with a lot of these things just to start trying to bridge, kind of like what you say, what is the trust foundation? Well, in this world, it's kind of like, how does it work offline, and then how we push it online, and then where do we convert? So Bricken is in the middle of those, kind of like, we itself want to bring that kind of like Oracle level through Chainlink, that there's a foundation for the asset, and we understand there's data points that actually acknowledge the true ownership, and then we have to bring that to the on-chain information. So when there's a deployment of function and different transactions, there's got to be a parity between the offline and the online.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it still leaves questions in my mind, but the biggest thing is what I continue to hear is that it's for the issues that are offline, they're still a growing pain, is what I keep hearing.
I mean, absolutely. By all means, I'm not giving you right now the snake oil and saying like we solve it, because that's an unsolvable problem just because of how the offline data works. I mean, the whole data generation is owned by certain registries or centralized entities. So it's not pure information. There's asymmetry information, but that's not a problem that can only be solved by the on-chain or the technology sector. It's an ongoing, that when we stop relying on the asset and the inception of how they created or who owns the information, then we can really understand how we cure it with tech. But as of now, this is ridiculous. For example, if you go to Colombia to certain districts, there's not even streets. So if you sell a house in that street, the problem is not going to ever be solved by technological. It's a problem that needs to be solved by that street not having or not being registered absolutely in any public registry. And that happens a lot in agriculture fields. I'm from Mexico. That there's hectares being oversold. Why? Because there's duplication in the selling process of a single hectare of aguacates, for example, and that's an ongoing pain. But technology is never going to be solving that. It's an ongoing problem between how we understand how assets are being generated or created and how they're transmitted. It's a legal problem, yes, but it's also a strategical country-wise problem.
Very good. Thank you.
So back to asset management. So we go to giving them the solution as to how they can generate the Okay, sorry. Let me go back to the spot. On the asset management, it's important for companies to be able to have a tool for them to manage the investors that they just got onboarded into their project, for them to manage the treasuries that they got raised through the funding of the tokenized version of the asset, and obviously the communication, because you want to give them a tool for their, it's either a governance for calls, or it's an ongoing quarterly reports. It's an ongoing communication, distributing news about your project, because obviously what you want is not just the first phase of funding. As a builder, and then a promoter or any class, you would want to have more. So you want to generate that engagement that is just, they don't stay just in your first stage, but they go and continue in your journey, obviously deploying capital because you're doing good. So it's all about how a management can turn itself into a communication tool, into an engagement generator. So that's how we build in Bricken, right? So the solution itself is built on the 3 stages that I briefly explained. So from the creation of the digital asset to the distribution, and then to the actual management. And that's what unified itself into Token Suite, and it's basically what is the core of Bricken. If we understand that there's 3 stages, then we should surely understand that the 3 stages are monetizable events, in the sense that if we can create a fee for the generation of the digital asset, which are 5,000 USD in our BKN token. If they're distributing, raising, selling, that means they're using our Shopify version of token store, that's how we call it, then we can take a 3% out of the raise. And then in the asset management class, we're going to full-on SaaS. Right now, our first SaaS is just a 50 USD, and then hopefully by Q1, we're going to break it down into 3-tier system. The more functions we add, we're going to break it down into basic functionalities, mid-tier, intermediate functionalities, to premium functionalities, because we really want to have that generation of a SaaS for ongoing recurring revenue for the company, while we also have a one-stop fee, a success fee, and the pure SaaS. That's how the economy of Bricken is being built, just because there's different aspects and whatnot, but that's the main part. Additionally, we have other types of fees that we can generate, because we have a partner at Marketplace where we generate a fee, off-ramp, on-ramp fiat. Since we work with a provider, we also take a fee. So there's other types of minor fees, but the core business of Bricken is built on these 3 pillars. Our traction, yes, like I said, it's important for me to explain that Bricken was built in 2020. We did a hard pivot around mid-2021. We were focusing at the beginning for real estate sector, but we were the ones raising funds for ourselves and then buying real estate and whatnot. And then we saw the pain that was like an asset management type of situation. And we didn't want to be an asset manager. What we wanted to be is a tech provider. But at the end, we were the ones getting the funds, going for the asset, working on the asset, doing a flip or whatever was the outcome of the journey that we wanted to accomplish. So we were like, we're losing time, because we're not even the real estate, we're not even the tech, we're in between 2 worlds, and that's where it clicked to us. It's like, this is going to be the pain that a lot of people doing organization are about to witness. You cannot be both. As a company, the most important thing is to understand what is your USP. Your unique selling point has to be one. You have to be the expert at one thing. And yeah, when you're the mammoth unicorn, you can duplicate. And we have even seen how unicorns themselves, when they start doing all these crazy new products, they even fail because they need to keep being good at one. So we were like, real estate companies right now, they're going to say like, oh yeah, tokenization is the future. And it's like, what are you? Are you the real estate company? Are you the tech provider? Or what about other types of tokenization? So it's kind of like, we wanted to secure that through our solution, they don't have to worry about the technology. They don't have to worry about the tokenization. They only have to worry about the only thing they're good at, which is, if they're in the restaurant business, continue your restaurant. You want to tokenize the profit share of your restaurant, don't worry, the tech is there. The Bricken can give you all the solutions. You want to build and become the greatest promoter on earth, don't worry, go and get your assets in place, go get your purchase of buildings in the best possible way. Don't worry about the tech, Bricken can get you there. So that was kind of like the solution that we were building all along. Kind of like, we wanted that. If we were able, how do we know we have a validated product? Now we're growing. We launched our DApp, which is the one that I'll showcase in a little bit, March 2023. And the important lies that we're growing ever since. Such as clients that we have right now is, we're tokenizing a full district out of Panama. It's worth 120 million euros backed by the government. Then we're tokenizing a renewable energy company alongside Republic in the United States, because we're one of the partners. And we're tokenizing even a Web3 company, auditing company, such as Bricken. And basically, Panama District is a profit share. The renewable energy is equity share. And Bricken is one of the coolest ones that I witnessed, because it's going to be the first time that utility tokens, such as their native high token, is going to be transformed into equity tokens. So we're mixing both digital assets of the same economy. Bricken has utility tokens. Bricken will create equity tokens. and he's going to bring their utility users into the equity. So we're actually giving RWA utility to the high token, and all the all the high holders can now become shareholders of Hacken. So it's kind of like going to be a first proof of concept that is going to be built in the space, and I think it's going to be bringing a lot of interest because now we're understanding what tokenization is. It's not only about real world assets. It can also be about digital asset to digital asset. So that's kind of like the interest to something that is going to be quite new and interesting. So yes, I'm super excited about that because it's not real estate to real estate. It's utility token economy being bridged to equity itself. And basically that's it. I'll showcase the demo. Don't need to do that. Like I said, core team is built out of great expertise. Bricken wouldn't be here if it was not for the expertise that each member has. And yeah, a convertible notes. We can talk about it this at the end of the demo. I'm securing now 1.1 for my equity land. Already secured 1 million. I already waiting for my last ticket of 100K. This is a bridge to a seed round. What I want to do is we pre-sell 10% of the company at 11 million valuation, and the idea is to sell the remainder 10% of the company in 2024. At least a valuation of 20 million. So right now we build alongside. Next year with better KPIs that we obviously the ones that we're building and we're acknowledging that we're growing month by month. That means that I can really push that 20 million valuation. We pre-sell now, secure a spot. Then next year we go and continue the journey to the 20 million valuation, and hopefully also the market sentiment is going to be better and RWA becoming one of the narratives that we can really push such idea. And I mean, basically, regardless of this conversation, you have a QR that I'll leave for 2 minutes in case it directs directly to my calendar, whatever you need there. But for the time being, leaving this image, I would like to have you guys any questions. If not, I can jump into showcasing the demo and basically we can continue. Thank you very much. And yes, Mindy, nice to meet you.
Hi, nice to meet you. Thank you. I'm wondering, and you may have said it, but I was maybe missed it. But what are you using a custom chain or where are you hosting it, please?
Yeah, custom chain. No, we built on Ethereum. We're using the Ethereum Foundation as a foundation. We are already working also on the BSC, and on Q1 through CCIP, we're going to be able to deploy our whole infrastructure on the next following 4 chains. So we have Base coming up, then we have Polygon, we have Arbitrum, and the 4th one we're still a little bit doubtful, but most likely it's going to be Avalanche. So the idea is for the user to be able to use whatever chains they come. I'm going to say that clients that come to us, especially from the Web2, they don't even understand or care what chain you use. They just want to deploy the asset. So nonetheless, we're going to give them the freedom for them to decide where they want to deploy their goods. But obviously, I believe that obviously the greatest answer they're going to give us is where is the cheap.
Thank you. Yeah, so I build custom chains. That's why I'm asking. And I'm wondering, do you allow for other products to be hosted on your platform? I have a brand new money way of transferring money. It would actually allow you to legally take money from a credit card and put it into a bank account. And so I'm wondering if a person would be able to utilize the platform that you have. It's also tremendous for commodities and large scale transactions, real estate and things of that nature, because basically you're putting money on a block and it holds it there until say bill of lading is taken care of, or metallurgical or whatever kind of analysis is, and then once the product is cleared, yes, all of the I's are dotted and T's are crossed. Now we can go ahead and release that block. So it has a process of actually holding fund. So is that something you would allow on your platform? Is that something where I'd be able to platform something I'm doing? Because just kind of curious about that. Thank you.